Good morning. It's now time to start with this session. The name, I am Annalisa Cogo. I work in the University of Ferrara, and since 1 year, I am in charge of the Institute for Rehabilitation of Pediatric Asthma in the Dolomite at Misurina. And the title of this session is Mountain Wellbeing, the One Health Approach for High Altitude Communities to Improve Social Welfare. And it's based on the concept of One Health. So human health and animal health are interdependent and depend on the environment. So this will be the topic around which the session will be developed. And climate change, of course, can have a very dangerous and harmful impact on the planetary health in a number of ways. As you all know, deteriorating environment, the quality of air and water, disrupting supply of water and food, spreading a vector-borne disease and allergen to new areas, plus a longer pollen season. Moreover, the warming of mountain environments may allow mosquitoes, ticks, and other disease vectors to afflict inhabitants of higher elevation. And increasing the frequency and intensity of extreme weather will be really dangerous for animal and human health. So this is just an overview. And now I start with my presentation. And the title of my presentation is Birthing in the Mountain, Lights and Shadows. So I forgot to explain that the discussion will be only at the end of the entire session. So the mountain environment is characterized by a decrease of barometric.
Questo è importantissimo.
Sorry? Okay, so is characterized by a reduction in barometric pressure and in oxygen and in air density. Moreover, the temperature, the humidity decrease, the wind, the speed of wind increase, and there is also a decrease of allergens and pollution. I marked in red the last 5 points, temperature, humidity, wind, allergen, and pollution, because on this characteristic, climate change can have an effect. And what about breathing in the mountain? The respiratory system is the interface between the environment and the metabolic function of the body, and plays a pivotal role in the acclimatization process. That means there is an increase in ventilation that is called hyperventilation. But the respiratory system is also the first stage of the path of the air through our body. So it undergoes both the beneficial and harmful effects of the inhaled particles. So just summarizing, in the mountain, air is cooler and less humid. There is low or very low outdoor pollution and less pollen and dust mite. These are the concentration of some of the more important pollutants. And just to be clear, this is not a result of research or a result of a monitoring. It's just a snapshot of a moment. The number measured at 2 p.m. on a Sunday in September. And a Sunday in September is a day and the time of the day with little traffic. And the measurement has been done in 3 locations in the Veneto region, and data are from Regional Agency for Environmental Protection. And in a mid-mountain village, in a hill town, that is Misurina, a hill town, Belluno, and a city with factories and traffic. So just, you can see just in this table, the huge difference in the concentration of pollutant according to the different locations. So based on these results, Centers for the Treatment and Rehabilitation of Respiratory Disease in the Mountains have been built in Europe at the beginning for patients with TB, and have been built between the end of the 19th and the beginning of the 20th century. In these two pictures, you can see the Misurina Lake, and this building is a Grand Hotel that now is the Institute for Pediatric Asthma. And the reason was the presence of sandy mountain environment close to wood and fir trees. Now, in Europe, we have 3 centers for respiratory disease at altitude, and are located one in Misurina, another one in Davos in Swiss, and the last one in Branson in France, that is in Grenoble area. And is based on the indication of the beneficial effect of altitude for asthmatic. So these are the liked part of breathing in the mountain. In fact, the combined environmental factors of the alpine climate reduce pathogenic inflammatory response in patients with different asthma phenotypes. The effects, the results, are an improvement in asthma control and quality of life, fewer exacerbation and hospitalization, reduced need for oral corticosteroids, improved lung function, decreased airway hyperresponsiveness, and improved exercise tolerance. So the alpine altitude climate treatment really represent a valuable non-pharmacological therapy for those patients who do not achieve optimal control of asthma despite the use of advanced treatment. Another important point connecting breathing and mountain is the presence of forest. And forest bathing, that means walking in the forest, has beneficial effects on human health via showering of forest aerosols as well as physical relaxation. In fact, the forest tree emit a large variety of biogenic volatile organic compounds, and one of the major components of forest aerosol are terpenes that may contribute toward reducing respiratory inflammatory process. Traditionally, terpene-containing plant oil has been used to treat a lot of disease, and there are now a lot of research about these effects on human health. But unfortunately, we also have the dark part, and the dark part is connected with climate change. In fact, just as we have talked about forest bathing, now you can see what happened 3 years ago, in the Veneto region. In fact, at the end of October in 2018, the Vaia storm hits the regions, the Veneto regions, northeast regions of Italy, by wind gusts exceeding 200 kilometers per hour, and more than 41,000 hectares of forest were destroyed. And you can see in the picture the huge difference between pre and post Vaia storm. And the Vaia windstorm has shattered the Italian forest system, but has also had many severe direct and indirect socioeconomic impacts on mountainous areas. Another point that I put in the dark side is the indoor pollution. Indoor air pollution is a major global public health threat, and approximately half of the world's population and up to 90% of rural households in developing countries use biomass fuels in the form of wood, dung, crop residues, often associated with a bad ventilation in the houses. And the disease linked to pollution, not only indoor but also outdoor pollution, involve respiratory tract infection, chronic respiratory disease, early respiratory impairment, cardiovascular disease, cataract, reduced lung development already during pregnancy. I think that this is a very important point. The smoke inhaled by mother has a harmful effect on the lung of the baby. The last point, just one slide, we cannot forget the key role of the lung for acclimatization. I have already told about the increase in ventilation, but we have also to think about the pattern of our ventilation. How do we breathe? A deeper and slower ventilation is more efficient in terms of gas exchange and has been reported to maintain a satisfactory oxygenation during hypoxic exposure. So we should try to breathe deeper and slower. For example, we just demonstrated that a run between 2,000 meters and 3,000 meters increases in ground slope led to a reduction in thoraco-abdominal coordination, a less efficient ventilatory pattern that have an effect on tissue oxygenation, contributing to decline in running speed. So the importance of the lung also for acclimatization process in the mountain. So the key message is that the lung plays a pivotal role in the acclimatization to altitude. The exposure to mountain environment can be beneficial to human health due to reduced pollution and allergen and the presence of forest. The respiratory system is the first target of inhaled particles, and the many consequences of warming in mountainous regions can have enormous effects for respiratory system. So I just put this slide with questions, but I said the question arrived at the end of the session. So I thank you for your attention.